Hello book besties, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to discuss the books that I read in the month of June. I read 8 books. I had 0 5-stars, which is surprising because I read some really good books and I had quite a few that are very close to 5 stars. But sadly, none of them were quite 5-star, and I read a total of 2,866 pages. Before I get into the books though, I've talked about Forever Booked before. This is what her Instagram looks like. I will link her website below. This shop has just become not only a favorite, but she has become a friend, and she so kindly offered to send me some things from her new collection, which I personally think this is her best collection yet. Anyone could find something there, and her stuff is just so cute. So I'm going to show you guys what I got. First, these are the bookmarks. Okay, but look at this. Tell me that's not the cutest thing. The little bow sticks out of the book. And then this one, the little kitty cat sticks out. Isn't that so cute? I'm obsessed. They are such a creative and clever design there. And then she sent some stickers. We have Valeris. Of course. She sent me How's the Weather Parks. Love this. She has a book for every situation. And this one's probably my favorite. Most likely to buy another book. And then last are my favorite magnetic bookmarks. I have come to just really love using this style bookmark. The sticker that I loved, she makes in a magnetic bookmark as well. If you are a Bridgerton fan, I get the tea from Lady Whistledown. And then this one is my favorite of these. From Princess Diaries. Me, a princess? Shut up. That is so cute. Just trust me, go shop her things. You can use the code Jordan10 for a discount. Moving along into the books of June. Hold the phone. My phone is literally going crazy in my pocket. So for starters, if you watched my June blind TBR, you already know it was on my TBR, and I love to revisit that and let you guys know which books I did not read, because it's almost inevitable that there's at least one I do not get to, but I like to try to stay true to these TBR videos, otherwise I kind of feel like what's the point? So the one that I did not get to for June was Catch a Wave by Savannah Scott. I think that I wasn't jumping into it because it is the 3rd in a series. I think deep down I was struggling with that. Sadly, I don't know that I'm going to get to this one this summer, because I do think I want to start with the first book, which I still need to get. I'm going to get to it eventually, but it's going to go back on the TBR shelf. And then I mentioned a book that I kind of soft DNF'd, and that is Tress of the Emerald Sea. I am not completely DNFing this, so those of you who have been on this journey with me, you know, if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen in my stories that I'm struggling a little bit. Like, yes, it's very magical, but it's also like so bizarre, and I'm struggling with that, but not to the point that I want to like not read it. I can just tell it's one that I'm gonna do a disservice to if I force myself to binge read it rather than just take it kind of slowly. Who knows when I will finish? My goal is of course to finish it by the end of the year, but I'm not necessarily in a hurry. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the 8 books that I did read, and these are in no particular order. I'm literally just gonna grab them. One of the books I read was The Last Love Note. I'm pretty sure this is her debut adult novel. When I read the synopsis on this one with no context, like I've never seen anyone else read this book or like talking about this one, I just knew that it was one that I'd probably enjoy, and thankfully I did. I'm landing at like 3.75 star for it. This one was really hard for me to rate. It's definitely not a favorite. It's probably not even one that I'll like carry with me forever in my heart, but it was good and I would recommend it. Our lead, Kate, she lost her husband and she's now a single mom navigating life after grief and loss, and that is almost the entirety of this story. It's like, can she find love again? And she's trying to become a reflection of who she once was, like with her job, and she's kind of a bit of a mess. Like, it opens up reminding me a lot of Finley Donovan Is Killing It, where you're just like, how? Like, how can so much go wrong for one person? It's almost comical, and that's one thing I did appreciate about this. Even though it's dealing with like a really sad and heavy topic, the author handled it with such ease, and there was never a moment that I was like distraught and sobbing. I think in fact it could really help someone who's experienced grief, because it does turn out sadly that the author herself lost her husband. So she is writing from a very real and personal place, and it really does reflect in her story. So I definitely recommend this one if it sounds like your cup of tea, and I am glad that I read it. Next up is Ready or Not. This is another one that probably lands at about like a 3.5, 3.75. It was really cute, really enjoyable. I laughed so much through this book. After having children of my own, I felt so seen and just honestly like made me just giggle about being pregnant. With that being said, I would say that if you are someone who struggles with getting pregnant and wanting a baby, I personally would not recommend this one. Obviously, you be the judge of that for yourself, but it's heavy in like the details of being pregnant and expecting. But in the course of that, she is sort of caught in like a love triangle. She has to let the one night stand dad know that she's expecting, and her best friend shockingly isn't giving her the best support, but her best friend's brother is giving her a ton of support. And then she's kind of like, wait a second, why is he suddenly cute? Is this pregnancy hormones? Has he actually been right in front of me all of my life? The friends to lovers was done really well. I thought it was so cute, and I really enjoyed every character in this book. There was a couple things in it that were said that just kind of bothered me a little bit, not in a way that I would say it's not worth reading. There were just little things that for me personally I didn't like, but overall it was a really fun story. And then I read Full Measures by Rebecca Yarros. I was very eager to get into this one because I love Fourth Wing, and I have read another like romance book from Rebecca and I really enjoyed it, and this one did not disappoint. It also evaluates grief and loss. Our girl is a military daughter, and something happens and she's trying to hold the family together while also navigating a love life of her own that she kind of didn't see coming. I sat on the edge of my seat through this one. It was a very, very bingeable story that I could not put down. I think I read the whole thing in less than 48 hours. While I was reading it, I was obsessed and just devouring it, and I immediately went out and I bought book 2. I think I'm landing at 4 stars with it, and here's why. Even though I binged it, and even though I could sit here and be like, wow, I really loved this book, I kind of feel like I forgot everything. That speaks volumes. I really liked the characters, but I'm sitting here trying to remember the story as a whole, and so I'm realizing that it's just not one that has stuck with me. I do think that part of the problem is I binge read so much this month, and that doesn't help when you're trying to like remember books. Also, I will let you know that there is language and some open door scenes in this one, and so if that is something you try to avoid, there's your warning. I know it sounds crazy. I loved the book, but I don't remember a whole lot of the book. And then I reread Every Summer After. I loved this book when I first read it. I gave it 5 stars. That was, I guess, 2 years ago now when it first came out, and it was my favorite book of the year, and so I was very excited to reread this and see like how I feel about it now and if I still would give it 5 stars. And I loved it again. I definitely didn't feel hit as deeply emotionally as I did the first time I read it. So I did knock it down half a star, which is sad to do in a reread, but in all reality, like I still totally loved this story and it will always be a favorite of mine. But I know the ending kind of really bothered a lot of people on their first time reading it. For me, I felt so emotionally gripped and I read it like all through the night and cried and everything, and so that's why at that time it was 5 stars. But like I said, I don't know why this time I saw it differently. I think because I was less emotionally like what the heck, that I was able to see it through a different lens, and yeah, it just is still a favorite, but now is 4.5 stars. I also read The Rulebook by Sarah Adams. I love Sarah Adams. She is a favorite author of mine. I kept putting this one off and I wasn't sure why, so I'm glad to have finally read it. It did disappoint me just a little bit, but I kind of knew that that was gonna happen. I'd probably say it was like 3.75 stars. I like her other series better. This one comes after The Cheat Sheet, and I definitely prefer when in Rome and practice makes perfect more, and so it's hard not to like compare. It just felt like a very surface level fun type of a story. If that's what you're looking for, then like this is where it's at. The banter, the characters, like everything is always so well written in her books. I loved the idea of this story. Accidental marriage was very Ross and Rachel from Friends, and that was probably like my favorite part of the entire book, and them like navigating, rekindling, so it's like a second chance romance, which I also love that element in a story, but fell flat for me just a little bit. I've also been rereading Throne of Glass with my husband. Our plan is to just read this whole series together. It's his first time reading this series. It has been so fun to like hear his like assumptions on where the story's going. He's making me laugh so much because he even said, he's like, I'm literally just here for the love triangle. It's definitely still like a 4.5 star for me. When I read it years ago, I gave this one 5 stars, so technically I knocked it down half a star, but that's only because I read now the rest of the series and I know where it's going and I know how much better these books get, that like I can't justify giving this one 5 stars because like it's definitely not the best in the series. But I love these characters, I love this world, it's actual pure gold. And then I finally read Flawless, the first book in the Chestnut Springs series. This has been on my TBR for way too long. I was just tired of missing out on the hype. Like everyone loves Chestnut Springs and I needed to know why. This one and the next one I'm going to share were definitely the best of the month for me. This one is like a 4.5 star. The only reason it's not 5 star is because it like halfway through picked up in the smut so epically. But with that being said, it still was so good. I totally get it. I am obsessed with these characters and this town and this family. The fact that this one is like a rodeo cowboy, who doesn't love that? So I am very pleasantly not really surprised that I liked this one, plus this cover. And the last book that I read in June is Land of Silence by Tessa Afshar. She is an author I have been really eager to try, and I finally read one of her books. I buddy read this with several of my friends. We all landed at like 4 and 4.5 stars for it. The story was very difficult. It is about the women with the issue of blood from the Bible. In scripture, you get such a short little excerpt about this woman. So the author really did have to create this entire story, and it was really hard to read. You know the story that like she ends up being so desperate, and so watching things in her life go from like a good life to unfolding into heartache and trauma was really hard to read. All of us that were reading it together were kind of like, I need the hope at the end of this story, and you know it's coming, like you know what happens and that the hope is coming, but it didn't necessarily make it easier to read almost the majority of this book that was hard and full of suffering. But the ending surely was worth it. It was so beautiful. I loved the entire premise of Christ met her in her suffering, and in the isolation is where she was able to finally find her own relationship with the Lord. Definitely a story that will resonate with me. I will 100% continue reading some Tessa Afshar books. If you are looking for like biblical retellings, I highly recommend this one. So that is a wrap on my June wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to know in the comments below what your favorite book of June was. If it's not already on my radar, maybe I can add it to my already extensive, overwhelming TBR shelf. If you liked this video and you have not hit subscribe yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button and sticking around. I hope that your books are amazing, and I will see you guys in the next video.